Good to see you.
G'day, everybody. Welcome to the audio show. Now, this is look, this is really exciting today. I've got to tell you, Louis, we have got a name today that will knock your socks off. If you are at all interested in anything to do with speakers, well, then you're in the right place right now. What do you think about that, mate? I can't wait to talk to this guy, but I know we've got a few things we want to talk about before we get to him.
I don't think it gets any better than this. This is one of the biggest names in the industry. Somebody who's been around for a long time. And I think this is going to be a wonderful opportunity for folks in the audience to ask the question to the lead speaker designer for a very, 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 very well-known brand.
Well, some notable brands in his career too. Let me just tell you, that's not just who he's working for now. It's this man's been there, done that. So I'm very excited to talk to him. I'm going to pick his brain on. I've got a whole series of questions here, and I know our audience will have questions as well. And so, if you are out there and you're interested in asking a question of our guest today, make sure you get there and type it in, because we want to hear from you guys. Want you guys to ask your questions. And we won't spill it yet, but I think you know who it is because we've been advertising it for a while.
We've been advertising the heck out of it. I just want to take a brief moment to welcome everyone. We're obviously broadcasting worldwide today. We're coming out of the East Coast of the United States. We got right outside of Melbourne, Australia. We also have our guests dialing in from the Pacific Coast of the United States. So we are all over the place today, mate.
We certainly are, mate. It's we're coming in from everywhere, and we know you know as well as I do that we have we have a lot of audience out of Europe, and where this guy might actually have come from originally, and we've also we have people from all around the world on this show these days. It's fantastic, and so if it's at a reasonable hour where you are, let's hope you guys are locked in and ready to go, because we want you guys to participate in this live stream, because this is what these things we do are all about. So, mate, let's talk about what's going on with you and me.
Oh man, that's a whole TV show right there. We both got some things going on here. So I'm going to be breaking this to my audience next week, but no time better than the present for those who are fans of the Audiophile show. I'm in the process of moving. It's a weird time for me because I actually have 3 home addresses. I have a house in New Jersey. We have the one here in Raleigh, and now we just got a place in Orlando. So, it's not going to be like that long term. Obviously, we're getting rid of 2 and permanently relocating down to the Orlando area. But I've been busy moving, man. At the last 2 weeks, it's been loading up a U-Haul, getting that stuff packed up, and doing a run every weekend down to Orlando. And then starting next week, it's going to be packing up 4,000 plus records, hi-fi system, all of that jazz. And I'm going to document every bit of that process, how to break it down, securing it, getting it all packed up on the truck, driving it down, and getting it unboxed and getting set up in a new place, which quite frankly has some challenges already. So the good thing is, though, I'm not going to be alone for this, Shane. I can't do it myself this time. This is going to be a challenging setup in a new location. So I have to phone a friend. You ever see those game shows where you have to phone a friend?
Yeah,
I have to phone a friend for this one, man. I have to phone a friend. And I don't know. Who do you think answered?
Well, I think I did, in actual fact. And guess what, everybody? To quote Eddie Murphy's movie, am coming to America.
Yes, you are, mate. Oh, man. I just wish it was a little earlier so you could go do Capital Audio Fest with us. But you are coming to the States. That's right. Shane and I will be live and in person, and we are going to document some fun. We're going to get the stereo system dialed in, and we're going to create some content along the way. I'm also dragging them out to Record Store Day, Black Friday, to sit in the cold, because we might do it still here in North Carolina. I wouldn't let you sit in the warm weather in Orlando. We'll have to do it in North Carolina to my favorite record store. So
you're a brutal man, Louis. You're a brutal man.
You need to get the full-on American experience, man. Got to take you to get some barbecue and treat you to some good old things here in North Carolina before we head over to Orlando.
Yeah, well, it's going to be great. I've not been to America before, so this is my first trip there, and yeah, I'm coming over to help you, mate. I'm going to help you set your room up. I'll be there for a little while too, by the look of things. Might even be there over Christmas and New Year's. I've got a couple of months where I may well be your guest. You'll be sick of me by the end of this. I am absolutely positive of that, but nonetheless, it's going to be great. We're going to get we're really going to get some stuff done, mainly setting up your system with what experience I have in that area with my sound engineering background and the work I've done with acoustics. We should be able to do the best we can out of that space that is going to be a challenge. And so we'll work on that. We'll shoot it all for the channels. I'll be creating. Now, I've been away from the channel for about a month now. People on my channel haven't seen me. I've had a fair bit of stuff going on from a personal point of view that I'm getting my way through, and so I'm having a break from things here in Australia and heading over to the old US of A to be around my second family over there, and really looking forward to that process and helping you guys get settled in down in Orlando.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I'm gonna abuse the heck out of you, man, with your knowledge and capability of getting things set up properly, because getting that room under control with those speakers is going to be a challenge. And speaking of speakers, we got already some Mr. Adams hinting on who our guest is. Maybe Shane, we should roll out the red carpet. What do you think?
Oh, I think it's time, mate. I think we better bring him on. He'll be anxious sitting there in the green room. We better get him on and look now. Let's just talk a little bit about this guy. He's a fantastic entertainer when it comes to putting on the story around the process that he goes through to design speakers. He has had a storied career in speaker design, starting way back in the KEF days and going through ELAC, of course, the TADs that we all know and love. And now he's working for MoFi. And of course, it is none other than Mr. Andrew Jones. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, Mr. Andrew Jones.
Hey, hi guys, great to be here.
Here he is, the man
I'm
himself.
Just listening to the intro and thinking, well, maybe in those few months you can teach Louis how to properly pronounce Melbourne.
Oh, there you go. Maybe.
Melbourne, yes.
I love it, Andrew. Good man.
We'll work on him, man.
We'll work on him. You see, I started off where he came from, and then one of my relatives must have stole a loaf of bread or something, and ended up on a long ship that a slow ship down to Australia. So my descendancy is from the UK.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we kind of know how to say Melbourne. We'll work on you, Louis. We'll work on you.
Y'all are rough. Well, welcome, Andrew. Really appreciate you joining us here today. We have a nice audience building, and we also have some great questions for you. And we've been promoting this live show for, I think, about 2 weeks now. And we had some people submit some questions early on, which Shane has kind of consolidated into a list. And I think we'll go ahead and get started with maybe one or two of the questions that have been put into our channels. Meanwhile, if anybody has any questions themselves, please go ahead and submit them. This is a live Q&A. It's an interactive session with Andrew. This is an opportunity for you to ask the man the questions himself. So feel free to get those submitted, and we're going to do the best we can to answer all of the questions we possibly can with the time that we have with Andrew.
I did notice, though, I should just say that the picture you've got of the SourcePoint 10s in the room, and you got a tube amplifier in front of the fireplace. You only need one or the other. You don't need to be
you got to
having
talk
an open fire and a tube amplifier.
You have to talk to the MoFi graphics photos, because I stole that right from the website.
Ooh, I'll have to have a word with them then.
Well, okay, that leads me into a question that I'm going to ask you straight off the bat, which is not pre-prepared. What sort of, with the current SourcePoint speakers that you're working on now, Andrew, What sort of load do they present for an amplifier?
They're mostly pretty easy. So I don't like to do stupid low impedances. We never did that at KEF. The lowest impedance we ever did was the 104.2. Now, I was in research at that time, and I contributed some things towards its development, but we decided to conjugate the impedance, which means any reactive component in the equivalent circuit, we put an additional circuit in to cancel that out, and go for a resistive impedance. And we made that 4 ohm resistive, plus or minus about half an ohm or so across the band. And that was based on research from, I think, Dolby Labs on dissipation in Class AB amplifiers, that you've got the current through the output devices and the voltages across them. And a reactive load is the worst case. You've got maximum current flowing at the same time as maximum voltage across. And so with music, with complex frequencies, it becomes very difficult to predict what the peak current demand will be from a complex load. Well, if it's resistive, you know the answer. It's exactly prescribed by the voltage. And it also is the load that has the minimum dissipation within the output devices. So it's a good thing. And also, if you've got a high source impedance amplifier, like a tube amplifier, you don't get an interaction between the source impedance of the amplifier, given by what we call damping factor, and the impedance curve of the speaker. It doesn't modify the frequency response of the speaker when you drive from a high source impedance. So the sound character I design it to have will be maintained regardless of amplifier source.
Brilliant.
But we got dealers saying, don't tell people they don't need these big beefy amplifiers, because we like to be able to sell big beefy amplifiers with these difficult load speakers. So ever since those days, I've always believed in having a controlled impedance curve. And in fact, Laurie Fincham, who was the technical director at KEF at the time, he was on the IEC committee that came up with the IEC 268-5 standard for specifying what impedance should be, what the how to define speaker sensitivity, all of those things. And I helped him in the background in working out some of these things. And that's where that idea of, since impedance is varying throughout the frequency range, what we said was, how do you describe that easily? And we just had that the minimum impedance should not drop below 80% of the nominal impedance. So if you say it's 8 ohms, it should not drop below 6.4. If it's 4 ohms, not drop below 3.2. So I've always done that.
Brilliant.
And it takes more effort, and there's certain things you have to give up to achieve that. If you do an optimizer, one of these computer optimized design the crossover, and you give it a target shape, the first time round it gets it really close and you think, yay, this is fantastic, that's exactly what I want to get. Then you look at the impedance, it's dropped down to half an ohm. And you go, well, that's not going to work. So you put in these parameters, you keep nudging what it'll allow as the minimum it can drop to, and then keep re-optimizing. And it's never as good as that first time.
That first go,
But that's what engineering is. Engineering is a blend of compromises, right? It has to be.
Absolutely, yeah. That's interesting, because it was a question that well, you prompted it. It was one of the ones floating around in the back of my head that I wanted to ask about what you thought about speaker sensitivity / how load sensitive a speaker should be, and how that presents. And then when you prompted me, Louis, with that tube amp, and what you said, Andrew, about that picture behind the back, and I thought, that's the question I want to ask him. But
this is something I've been saying a lot about recently, because I try to be as true as possible to what the specs are. One of my first roles at KEF was improving measurement techniques, because I started in research, and I got a passion for measuring speakers. They're one of the most difficult things to measure, because unlike electronics with one input and one output, unless of course it's multi-channel. Speaker has got one input and an infinite number of outputs, depending on where you measure, how close, what angle, those kind of things. And it interacts with its measuring environment. An amplifier, for the most part, is not influenced by its environment, where the speaker is heavily influenced. And so how do you separate what the speaker is doing from what the room is doing? That's not easy to do, but I spent my life developing techniques to get greater accuracy. And so when I see reviews where people will say, well, the manufacturer quoted X sensitivity, we measured it at Y, and sometimes it's 6 dB lower, and they go, it's lower than specified, but still usefully high. I'm thinking, wait. In fact, I discovered this recently, or rediscovered. I like to, I'm a collector of stuff. My condition of employment is give me enough room to put all my stuff, because it inspires me every time you walk in and see some of the stuff I've done in the past. And talking of all the different speaker companies I've worked for, I left KEF to come to Infinity. It was Floyd Toole that invited both Laurie Fincham and myself out there. And the first speaker we worked on was something called the Infinity Prelude. And it was this tall aluminum extrusion column with 4 mid-bass drivers, 2 mid-range and tweeter, and then a side-firing self-powered 12-inch subwoofer fed off speaker terminals. So other than plugging in, you didn't know it was powered in that sense. You just fed it off your speaker terminals. But because I'm taking the limit to speaker sensitivity is box size and bass extension. If you remove that limit, you can make mid-bass, mid-range tweeter very much higher sensitivity. So that's what we did. I made a 96 dB sensitive speaker. And it was first speaker I'd done moving to the States. And Robert Harley reviewed it for Stereophile at the time. And he said, classic line, I love the speaker so much, I bought the review pair. So that was a nice welcome gift moving to the States. Well, about 2 or 3 months ago, Facebook Marketplace popped a pair of those speakers, the Infinity Preludes, local, just about 8 miles away from where I live. I immediately buy it now. And I went off and bought them. I was kind of hoping they'd recognize me, but it was the grandfather who'd bought them and the father who owned them. And they keep saying, we'll show you that they're working and we'll do this. No, don't bother. I know how to fix these. No, let us show. It's not, no. I designed these 30 years ago, and it's just going straight over their heads.
Oh, no. Oh, that's a shame.
I wanted to be recognized. But I then went searching through the Stereophile archives and found that review, and I'm reading through it, and I'm reading through John Atkinson, John's review, and it says manufacturer specified the sensitivity is 96 dB. I measured 95.5, which is half a dB below spec, and I'm going, what? You're complaining about half a dB when you kind of let things go that are 6 or 4. So I'm a stickler for trying to be as accurate as possible with the specifications.
You've been scarred by that review, by the sounds of things, like that half a dB, but we're talking about 95.5 dB here anyway. I mean, honestly, a 2-watt.
Well, I have actually, I have mentioned that to John. It's fun. I've had lots of conversations with John about how to measure and stuff like this, so he knows what a stickler I am for
that kind of thing. Yeah. Well, look, I guess, unless, Lou, have we got anything coming in from the audience at this stage that you might like to ask us? And we'll try and do this backwards and forwards, because I mean, as I said, I've got about 9 here that I've come up with for Andrew.
Yeah, we definitely have some questions here. We got one coming straight from Chris, who gives you a nice compliment, Andrew, of being a incredible loudspeaker designer, but is interested to know what loudspeakers you use in your own setup, and would love to know what you actually listen to. What is a professional listening to?
So at home right now, I live in a condo, and so I used to have TAD Model 1, the original version of the TAD that I did. And in fact, when I was developing it, thinking this is going to be big, I made a foam card mock-up of that cabinet and brought it home and put it in the living room and waited to see if my wife thought it was too big. She did, but since it was my kind of pride and joy, we had them in the place. But can't make full use of that because in a condo you can't really play loud. And we had a dog that would run under the dining room table and howl.
Oh,
so currently I have a pair of the active speakers I did for ELAC, and they're easy to use. They can kind of stream to them and whatever. And my wife, as I was saying earlier, I just got it running again. Why don't these speakers ever work? So I got that working, but I don't do any serious listening at home. But now, especially with MoFi, I have this amazing space, and it's just 1.5 miles from my house. Technically, it's Beverly Hills, so that's quite nice. And I've got a room 20 foot by 30 foot by 11 foot, and you walk in and it feels like you're at home. I've got a huge sectional sofa, soft furnished, that takes energy out from the middle of the room, because most rooms putting absorbers on the walls doesn't work very well. That's not, absorbers don't work at boundaries. They're supposed to work in the middle of the room unless they're plate type absorbers. And so since I've got everything there, I've got my quad electrostatic, the SL57s, I've got ACSTAT 1+1s, I've got my TAD speakers, both the compact reference and the original source Model 1. I got the NW DM70s, which are electrostatic. It's electrostatic theme here, but I love the idea of electrostatics. I was very good friends with Peter Walker. We used to have literally fireside chats with a glass of whiskey in front of the fireplace about speakers and stuff. So always loved the concept of electrostatics, and I got various pairs of electrostatic headphones. But actually, most often in the lab, I'm listening to the SourcePoints just because they're there, they're current. The SourcePoint 10, as I developed it, I really felt, oh, this is something that I find interesting, and it's both what might be expected of me from concentric drivers from my days at KEF, but I've done it slightly different, the way I've not done it before. And that's what fascinates me. I don't want to be just churning out the same old, I have done it, Mark 1, Mark 2, reference, etc., etc. I prefer to be given the time to think of different things and give me a challenge, and that's where I'll go. But I do have the TAD Model 1s at the office as my, and I say the compact one, as my reference points of this is some of the best I've done, and how close can I get to it in the design work I do.
Because I mean, I think your idea around the SourcePoint and the MoFi marriage is to try and get something like the TAD reference type sound at a more cost-effective, price point in the SourcePoint series. Would that be correct in saying?
Yes, I made a name for myself with the not just, but that Pioneer $100 and $130 speaker that came onto the market. We sold so many of those. And then with the ELAC ones, I love doing the budget stuff, but that $100 speaker, it's not the cheapest speaker I've done. I did one prior to that when I joined Pioneer for a different retailer that's now defunct, and those were $59 and $79 a pair. It beggars belief that something can be, but even for those, I paid attention to how I was doing it. So I love the idea of being able to do affordable speakers. It's great fun putting everything you can into the ultimate speaker. But how many people experience
through that?
Not even beyond buying it. How many people get to a show to listen to those? The satisfaction of seeing people walking out of a store with those Pioneer speakers was fantastic. I'll tell you, there's a very funny story here. So I'm doing a show one year, and the owner of Bel Canto Electronics, John, he comes up to me and he said, "Oh, I've got this new range of electronics, and they're lower cost, more entry level." He said, "But I've got them on reasonably expensive speakers." I'm thinking, wouldn't it be fun to just put them on your $130 speakers, because those perform so well that it would just a good counterpoint, with kind of emphasis of value. He says, "Do you have any with you at the show?" I said, No, I'm not demonstrating these at this show." He says, "Could you overnight a pair?" I'm going, "John, it would cost more to overnight them. Let's just go out and buy some." Says, "Okay, let's do that." So we get in his car, we go to the nearest Best Buy, and we walk in, and I go, "Do you have a pair of those Pioneer BS22 speakers?" And guys, "We do actually. You're lucky, because they just fly off the shelves. But yes, we have a couple of pairs left." They say, "Oh, okay, can I have a pair?" And so he puts them on the desk right next to me. And of course, we got my signature on the back, and the signature all over the carton. So my signature's just there. And so for some reason, John's managed to basically have me pay for these speakers. He's a better salesman than I am, put it that way. So I hand over my credit card, and the guy takes it, and it spits out, says, "Can I have your signature, please?" And as I'm signing the signature, he's looking at it, goes, "Wait, are you Andrew Jones? That Andrew Jones?" I'm going, "Yeah." "Why are you buying
your own
speakers at retail?" Well, it's like, this is it. That was quite
what a story.
moment.
What a story.
Oh, man.
Love it.
Crazy.
Very
and then
good.
as far as professional, part of that question at the end was about, I've been in quite a few studios. I've presented at Atlantic's record studio in New York. I've got a pair, I think they've still got them there, reference ones as the mastering speakers at Air Studios in London, George Martin's studio. And Benny Anderson has them in his studio. When they did that computer 3D launch of ABBA revival, if you look, I was watching that live, because I'm going, if they got a shot in the studio, I'm going to see, and I've got my camera ready to freeze frame it. Sure enough, there's my speakers on the mixing desk. And he'd even bought the ELAC active speakers to put in various college studios that he'd helped set up for teaching people how to record and mix. So they're in those kind, and Rick Rubin has SourcePoint 10s in his one of his homes, his home in Italy. So they get into these places, but I've been obviously primarily focused on the home market.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, that brings me to the next question, or the first one in my little list of things here is, what are the core design principles that, guide you to create a new loudspeaker, and how do those principles, or how have those principles evolved over your time designing speakers? Has there been an evolution, a change from where you were once to where you are now?
Yeah.
So I would say, my start was at KEF. That was my speaker university, right? So that's where I learned so much more about speakers. You can't go to university and learn how to be a speaker designer. You can read all the papers, you can experiment yourself, but you need tutoring, you need mentoring. And that's what I got at KEF. And like I said, I start off in research. And Laurie even said to me when he hired me, we're going to start you in research because we can't afford you to make mistakes in product development.
Oh, yeah.
But how am I ever going to learn? It's that kind of thing. But eventually, I crossed over to be chief engineer for product development. And it was prior to that point, we'd started with the concept of Uni-Q, right? And so I was on the periphery of seeing that. And I'd read a paper by a guy called Daniel Queen from King's College London about the next frontier in speakers is directivity control. And that struck a chord in me. And that's what Uni-Q was giving, controlling directivity better than space drivers. And that idea stuck with me. I liked that idea. And, everything has got pluses and minuses, but what a concentric driver can do in my mind gives me all the pluses that I want. And whenever I do regular speakers, all the way through the development, I'm looking at the off-axis curves and I wish this was a concentric driver. Obviously, I still do good designs of conventional layout, but my preference is to do concentric. So that stuck with me whenever I can, whenever I can, depending on configuration, price point, and whatever. I've always done concentric drivers. I've just worked through the years on seeing what I can do to make them better and better. And as have KEF, for example. I'm friends with so many people in the other speaker engineers. Lars Risbo from Purify, Jack Hockley Brown from KEF. And I look at what they do, and we all chat amongst ourselves, and it's healthy. We got this from when I was at KEF. We all used to support the Audio Engineering Society, and we would go up to London once a month. It was actually obligatory as a KEF engineer. You had to attend, no matter what the lecture was, you attended it. You supported the AES. And then afterwards, we all went out together to dinner. And so there'd be whoever was doing the talking, you'd have people from Wharfdale come down. If it was a speaker lecture, you'd have Celestian, you'd have B&W. That's where I met Lawrence Dickey, who did the Matrix and that. And as an aside, so we have this thing. We were at a show once, Munich show, and this reviewer came up and he said, Andrew Jones and Lawrence Dickey talking to each other. And I thought you'd be enemies. And no, we've been friends for decades, from the days of Captain B&W. Can I take a picture of you both? Yeah, sure. So we did a nice smile. And I said, would you like a picture of how you think we interact? And he says, what do you mean? And I throttled Lawrence. So he throttled me back. So we're all just like this. So can I take a picture? Yes, hurry up and take a picture. So now we have this tradition, and we did it at the Warsaw show 2 weeks ago.
Right, that's 3 times fast.
Yeah, right.
And so it's our tradition to get it on camera and do that. So we'd all go out for dinner together, and Peter Walker and Peter Baxendale, and we'd all just chit chat about techniques and technologies and stuff without giving the game away about the product we were developing. We'd always help each other out. And you could guarantee if I'd been chatting to Peter about something that I couldn't quite work through, a couple of days later, I'd get a call. Hi, Andrew, this is Peter Walker from Quad. Yeah, I think I know that Peter Walker from Quad.
Peter Walker is, yes.
And he said, I was thinking about what you said over dinner the other night. And then he'd just lay out this beautiful, simple explanation. Baxendale would say, if you need more than A-level math, you're not thinking it through clearly enough.
Because honestly, isn't that the case that simple designs in anything to do with hi-fi is often where the purity comes from and where we get as close as we can to the music?
It's interesting that one of my pat sayings is physicists are failed mathematicians, engineers are failed physicists, and I've worked my way down to engineer. And my math ability was never that high. My brother, I have an identical twin brother, and he's better at maths than I am. So if I got something a bit more complicated, I'll call him. But you look at people like Lars Risbo, what they're doing with Purify. You look at what, with the measurement system, the Klippel system, the advanced three-dimensional mathematics required to do that prediction. You know, it does not, I always say, it does not measure far-field response. It calculates it from a subset of near-field responses. And that's a subtle but important distinction. But nonetheless, the mathematics, someone said, because I've been trying to point this out recently, someone says, yeah, I bet Andrew Jones doesn't understand the mathematics that is in that system. I'm going, that's right, I don't.
Correct.
But I do know the underlying concept of what you're doing. And I do know it's a predictive system that tries to compensate for all these other things. And unless you got all of that right, you know, are you sure that what the end result is?
I was going to say, isn't AI around? I mean, let's be honest, when we're using AI in anything these days, we've got to give it a set of parameters to start with for it to do the thinking it needs to do. So it's only as smart as the foundations we give it to calculate off.
And even that, it can hallucinate too. So
absolutely, yes. Yeah, that's I still feel safe that I'm not. My job is not going to be impacted by, at least in my not long left lifetime.
Don't say that, please.
Say that,
No, at the beginning, you say he's been around a long time, and at least you didn't say very long time. There was one comment when I joined
Andrew's with words, man. I'm telling you.
Andrew, it was Andrew. Andrew's moved again. And my answer was, do you know how old I am? In my lifetime, I haven't actually been with that many companies, given how I've been active in over 5 decades. If I do the calculation, maybe it's covered technically 6 decades. That doesn't mean I've been working for 6 decades in speakers. But
you can't be that old, Andrew. It's just not possible. You don't look anything like old enough to have been around for decades.
I do have the perfect follow-up question for this, Andrew, because one came in from our audience about if you had the ability to create a speaker with cost no object, is there a manufacturer that you would choose? So if there's another place you would go.
It's interesting, and sort of something similar came up recently in a discussion with my career, that when I joined MoFi, why did I join MoFi? What's different about working with the other speaker companies I've been with? And the first answer is MoFi wasn't a speaker company. That's a huge difference, because, okay, KEF was a speaker company, but I joined it as a way of getting into properly designing speakers and getting the mentoring from KEF and everyone we knew. Like I'm saying, Dick Small, Dr. Richard Small, he came to work at KEF. So he became, while I was in research, my boss. The things I could learn from him, Litchitz and Van der Kooi, and all the luminaries in the field, we got access to. But then I joined Infinity, which was already a speaker company. I was brought in with Laurie to help them change direction. Then I was brought into Pioneer to change direction and to kind of change how we were doing things from the States. ELAC, same thing. ELAC was continuing with their product lines in Germany, and we set up ELAC Americas to add affordable speakers, the debut speakers, in a market that they hadn't cracked. So that was our way of getting into that, because people kept asking, "Oh, when are you going to do the next most? I want to spend more money than just your Pioneer speaker." Yeah, I'll take your money. So that was a way of moving upwards in price points. But it was always going to hit a ceiling, because Germany was already doing
handling that top end stuff.
Right. So in one way, if you're joining a speaker company, don't you just have to sort of fit in with the way they were doing it? You can't change it too much. I couldn't go back to KEF and go, I had to change the heart about Uni-Q, so we're not going to do it any longer. That doesn't happen. but it also stunts some of the ideas you could have. You know, I talked at the beginning about I love electrostatics as a concept and what they can do. And I'd love, from time to time, I've got ideas about what I might do differently with an electrostatic. Am I ever going to do it? Probably not, because I'm not in a company that makes sense to throw out, you know, I can't MoFi to try and then say, well, Andrew's doing an electrostatic speaker. I mean, they distribute MoFi distribution, distribute KEF Quad in the US. So they do sell electrostatics, but the idea of starting from scratch and developing a electrostatic for MoFi, that doesn't make sense. So I think the only way of ultimately doing something very different would be like join a company that isn't doing speakers. It's either a high-end hi-fi company that's doing the electronics or doing the turntable or whatever, that has a hankering for adding a speaker to the range. MoFi were doing turntables, they were doing some electronics. And well, why don't we complete the system with what? So that gave me the chance to say, okay, this is with what. Let me try and do something different. So it's either that, join a company that's not making speakers, or start a speaker company. But at my age,
oh, come on,
I still think about doing it. So
prime age to start it.
You never know.
You never know. Well, stay tuned. You heard something here on the channel first, folks.
Now at the next Exfona, Andrew.
Yeah, well,
but you know, the thing is, what I like is I'm not a businessman, so I like to be free to create, and therefore I need to be coddled. Yeah, I've never been a consultant, because then I'd be worried, where's the next paycheck coming from? I'd have to go out literally selling myself. I love talking about myself, clearly, but selling myself and setting a rate at which you need to pay me for designs, I feel so comfortable about that kind of stuff. So a company that's going to invite me to join them for what I do, that's perfect. Just look after me, take care of all the peripherals, and let me innovate. That's what I enjoy.
Yeah. Well, I guess we could move into another question here. Have you got anything, Louis, that you would like to ask?
We actually have a few questions that have built up in the chat here.
There we go.
So we have a question about pairing speakers, new speakers with this existing equipment. How should someone go about that? And are there some different types of music styles that they should be trying in their setup?
Hopefully, you design equipment to be agnostic of the type of music. Now, that's not always possible, especially given some of the music these days, you know, like rap and hip hop. They're very dependent on the bass, and the very low bass and loud.
Electronic music too.
And electronic music, yes. And let's put home theater to one side.
For
the moment. But of course. I always say that if your speaker can do music correctly, then it can do home theater other than those bass considerations, because home theater or movies require music. There's always music playing, either in the forefront or the background.
I was going to say they also require that mid-range perfection as well, because that's in the dialogue.
That's the dialogue, which is vocal range, right? So if you've got vocals and you got music right, then you got home theater right, other than the bass. Same thing with your electronic music and hip hop and rap and all those genres. You start with that point, and then you see, well, how do I satisfy the bottom end? And especially with a lot of music being played in cars and in car systems being so much better these days, even those done by manufacturers. You know, I've done 3 different presentations of in-car systems to different car manufacturers, and it's fun designing those. Interestingly, trying to relate, well, what measurements correlate to what you hear in a car compared to what I know works in a room. That's an interesting aspect.
Yeah.
But
and also sitting off axis as well. So you need things like time alignment and DSP and things to be able to really lock that in.
But the big advantage as a speaker designer, and this sort of relates to that question a bit, when you're trying out new speakers, and how do you know that they'll work in your system? How do you know they'll work in your room?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what your room is when I'm designing.
Yeah.
In a car, I do.
To control
everybody gets the same room.
Right.
Right.
If you tune that system correctly at the manufacturing stage, it will always sound what you intended it to sound. Now you can fiddle with the tone controls if you don't like that.
Yep.
But at least you've got that comfort factor.
Yeah.
I like to see people's systems in their rooms. I often look around on the internet at all these different forums, especially if people say, "Oh, post a picture of your system." Oh, I'm right there. I'm gonna in the background be silently judging.
Well, I better not ask you what you think of my room then, Andrew.
But it's the fact that we have the ideal thing we'd like, a dedicated listening room.
Yeah.
Or a listening space that can work as a living dining area, but still sounds really good as a listening space. And then I've got nowhere to put them. I've got a doorway here. I've got a window there. I've got a wall space this wide. So I put the speakers kind of like
a new house. Yeah.
Got it. And so, I must say this condo I'm in, other than, no, I can't play loud. I walked in and the first thing I'm doing is looking around and listening to acoustics as I walk in and seeing the ceiling above me over the dining area is 8 foot, but the ceiling over the listening area is 10 foot. And so there's a 2-foot drop facing the fireplace. I'm thinking, I could put a projector in that drop down ceiling and hide it all away. And I could put a screen hidden up in the ceiling over the fireplace. And now I've got a home theater system. And we ended up buying, heavily pushing, we should buy that. So people have to make do, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
So in a sense, as I'm designing it, I have to be aware, I make recommendations, but I know that that's going to critically be dependent upon room characteristics. So I can only generalize as to what you need to do. And the first thing is, I try to think speakers are agnostic. What music should you use to test your speakers with? Music you like.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
I've got some brilliant demo music, which I pick because it does show good aspects of the speaker, but it's always music I enjoy listening to. And, I change it out from time to time, not necessarily because I'm fed up with playing that piece of music. I mean, some pieces of music, they are ones that I get so emotional that I know the song's coming to an end. I'm thinking, I've got to pull myself together to be able to speak when it ends. But I want people to experience that emotion.
Yeah.
I change it out because other people coming in next year might want to hear something different, or there's something now popular. And I try not just follow the popular trends of everyone's playing this track, so I guess I have to.
Thank you.
To some degree, I have to. So they got some cross-reference between rooms, but mostly I pave my own way and try and find interesting emotional music that is well recorded. Right?
Yeah.
Should I play shitty music? I'll let you try it out with that. Hopefully, I've taken requests from time to time. I used to do it very often. And sometimes I find wonderful new music from that. Sometimes you just want to turn it off. How do you do that?
Right.
Politely. And talking of Melbourne, I was at the Melbourne show, I think the only year I've done it. Huge room, 50 or more people in there. And this guy at the back goes, could you play this CD? Okay, so I put it on. It was some film soundtrack. And they're not always great. And you know, what someone loves, maybe not the rest of the audience, what their reference is, the rest of the audience doesn't like.
Right.
And you're playing it and everyone's getting restless, they don't like it. And I don't know the music, I don't know when the track's going to end. Maybe they're waiting for the crescendo. So you get to the end and I gave it back. And he says, could you play one more? Do I chance this? Okay, another soundtrack. This time it was a Batman movie. So I'm playing this and it's just nobody's interested. And some people are leaving, some people come in and leave. And then this group of about 10 people walk in. And you know, you can see people walking in and out of the room. This guy walks in, he's 6'6" tall, big strapping guy wearing a Superman t-shirt. You couldn't miss this guy, right? And he stays about 10 or 15 seconds and walks back out. So I think, now's my chance. So I stopped the CD player, took the CD out. Sorry, can't play Batman any longer. You just pissed off Superman and he left. And even that guy found that funny enough not to be insulted that I just stopped his.
Nice. It's to tell you, when you get into that, and I've done my fair share of hi-fi shows. I cover the Melbourne hi-fi show every year. It's a shame I missed you on that year, but when you're taking requests like that, it's a slippery slope, man. It really is. Like you just don't know what you're going to get. And one of those tracks that I love to play, which isn't necessarily overly well recorded, but it's Sarah McLachlan's Angels. When I play that track, I cry my eyes out because it reminds me of my little French bulldog. And he used to sit
absolutely same thing. I got so many dogs and cats that
man. And that's what got me every time. And it's not a great track, but atmospherically, it's a beautiful track. The live version of it is stunning because she changes the way she holds notes, and it's just I'm getting funny now.
I'm crying just thinking about it. Yes, never mind listening to it.
The older I get, the more happier I get.
Yes, me too. So so going back to that question, the music you play on is the music you love. And does it make you not only hear new things because you're so now connected to how it's playing that piece of music that you notice things that you hadn't noticed before? It doesn't mean they weren't in there before, but nothing made you communicate so well with the music that you noticed those things. If you then went and back and played it on the old system, well, it was there all along. Why didn't I notice? Because you hadn't become as involved with that piece of music. So absolutely, it's that. Does it make you cry more? That kind. Does it make you happy? That kind of thing. And then the next important thing is whenever you bring a new piece of or a new speaker in, it doesn't necessarily need to go exactly where the previous ones are.
That's true,
So you've got to try moving them around and to get the best out of them, to make that decision as to whether you like those speakers. And there is no right or wrong answer. And I don't try and second guess what people might want my speakers to sound like.
In
the case of the Pioneers, sometimes I'd read comments on forums. Oh, those speakers are too dull for me. Oh, those speakers are too bright for me. And we're going, how could you have both those things happening at the same time?
Because we've all got different ear pin and we all hear things differently. We all emotionally connect from our ears to our brains differently. And it's so subjective. Your job is bloody hard.
It is. And I can drive myself crazy if I say I'm trying to, I use all the measurements, right? I'm a big measurement guy. That was my background. I love doing better and better measurements. But measurements inform what you will hear, and they get you more quickly to an answer you were looking for. But ultimately, since all speakers are imperfect, more so than, let's say, any other part of the chain, and interact with the environment, which makes my life more difficult. I set a target measurement, let's say, or set of measurements. There's no one measurement that will fully define it. So set a group of measurements as my target and try and get as close to that as I can. I'm not going to get too close with very affordable speakers. So it's imperfections I'm dealing with. And which imperfections can I fix at any price point? Which do I leave alone? Well, ultimately, that's my choice. I can't second guess what this person and that person will want. And even when I'm doing Mark II version or a reference version, what constitutes better? If the people liked and bought my first one, will they still think, even though I think this next one is better, will they? So maybe they don't, and they don't buy it. But maybe the people who didn't buy the first one because of its being a consequence of imperfections, maybe now they do like this blend. So I've lost that guy, but picked up a different guy. So I've still got people buying my speakers.
It's a slippery slope, isn't it? It's like so difficult to know where to go there. And another thing that you just made me think about is that starting off, as you've beautifully said, Andrew, about setting off with a set of measurements in which to build a foundation on, and then it's a sense of compromises around that to get to an end, an end position where you're happy with where things are, and then but that's the compromise, isn't it? It's the trying to. And if you've got a bigger budget, like at TAD, for instance, at Pioneer, then you can iron out as much as you can and get that speaker. But it leads me to this question. When you were designing that speaker and you literally had a blank check, like we just want you to build as good as you know how to build, were there compromises you made there that as far as from a musicality standpoint, or were you just able to produce something that measured infinitely as good as physically you could, and then you went, that's what I'm going to put to market?
It's actually interesting because, of course, thing with TAD, I was leading the team, but it wasn't just me. MoFi, it's just me. I'm the only one coming up with the technology, making it work, blah, blah, blah. TAD was a team, and principally based in Tokyo, all the Pioneer guys. Some of the best engineers, or the best engineers I've ever worked with. And they give me, I said right at the beginning of the project, what happens if we disagree? If something I want to do or how I want it to sound, the guys in Tokyo don't agree with. And they basically said, well, Andrew-san, it will be your decision. I think, oh, responsibility much? Right. I mean, thank you, but and so we never faced that. And I think the reason was we were all of similar ideas of what we wanted, but I think at that level, the things that I needed it to do, it also did the things that they needed it to do. So we were all happy. It's when you're more limited in what something can do, where you've got more compromises, and how are you blending those, and how you're picking which ones you can. I've had people love my speakers and then show me the speakers they love, and they want me to hear their speakers or their setup. How do you equate these two experiences? They're very different, but clearly what they value is contained as a subset, let's say. That sounds arrogant, but
I get you.
Mine presents the information they want. It may present, let's say, more than they need, or those other areas differently, but they don't care about those because it's got what they need. And that's the way you have to look at it ultimately.
Really, that's interesting. Because from a speaker design point of view, that's a really pressing question. I'm sure a lot of people would want to know what your mindset is on that. Like, how do you get to that end result that you go, right, that's as good as it's physically possible to be with a blank check?
Yeah, I think it's a question I ultimately haven't resolved. I face it every time I design something. And in fact, even going back to is the Mark II better? Is the reference version better? Is this new design, completely new design for MoFi, good enough?
Yeah.
And I'm always panicking towards the end stage of the development.
Okay.
Is it good enough? Will people like it? And my wife, she's a psychotherapist, so she notices these things.
Good luck with that.
Yes, an engineer and a psychotherapist, kind of.
Oh my God, that's an interesting dinner conversation.
And so, I'm worrying often.
Yeah.
And she says, well, what's the matter? It's this new speaker, I don't know. And she says, okay, Sheldon, she sometimes calls me under these circumstances, put your Sheldon hat on.
Yeah.
And do you always have these thoughts when you're about to release a new design? I said, yes. You're always panicked when you release a new design? Yes. With all the designs you've done, you're still panicked? Yes. Okay, so putting your Sheldon hat on, analyze. If you've always had these thoughts, has it always worked? Has the design always worked and been accepted? And again, I don't want to sound arrogant here.
No.
This isn't the point. But yes, they've always been successful. Someone likes them. Enough. I always like to say, if enough people what I like what I like, I have a business. If they don't, correct, I have a hobby. Right?
Correct. Yeah.
Maybe the audience shifts slightly from time to time as I'm coming up with new things. But it's always been either well received or sold well or whatever. So he said, okay, so statistically, it's been successful. So you were always worried every single time? Yes. Then look, statistically, it's going to work this time. So stop worrying. And if it doesn't, everybody's allowed to have a failure from time to time, right?
Yeah.
So
but
that's the way
it's a great point she makes, because you if that's generally how your head's at that point of release, and the history says that that's worked in the past, then she's quite correct. I mean, it's almost good that you're feeling the same way as you have in the past, because
that I'm not blasé and going, oh, this is good enough. No one will notice. I'm so good, no one will notice that my greatness isn't good enough.
That keeps you honest, and I think that's a great. I'm glad you think like that, actually, because that means that in fact you are the opposite of arrogant. You are vulnerable, and you are nervous about the outcome, and that keeps you honest as an engineer, I would have thought.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder the day, though, Andrew, the day you're like, I nailed this one. This is so great. I have no doubt this is going to crush it. Like, I think I would have a little bit of wariness in me.
The SourcePoint 10, when I first did that, because
I love the sound of that.
I'd gone away from what I traditionally do with concentric drivers and felt I could do it differently with not that two-way 10-inch concentric style drivers haven't been done before. I'm not arrogant enough to say I was the first to do this. Tannoy, prime example. But they're all compression tweeters. So I was doing something different because I was trying to put a 1-inch direct radiating tweeter down the middle of a 10-inch cone. And with all the attendant problems that's going to create that have to be solved, a compression driver can work much lower in frequency, so you don't have to be so worried about the breakup modes in a 10-inch cone.
Right?
So I had to commit that this was the direction I was going to go in, commit to tooling, because everything was new. The cone was new, the tweeter was new, all the magnet structure that I came up with,
the basket arrangement,
novelty, everything has to be tooled or machined and whatever. So we have to commit to all that money to ever hear, is it going to work?
Oh, wow.
And the first time I got that driver and started measuring it, okay, it measures how the cone's measuring very well, etc. And then I developed the crossover, and that first listening experience, knowing that it could still be tweaked a bit, but I sat down and listened to it thinking, wow, I think I have something here.
Yeah.
And I haven't had that many obvious wow. I've had, oh, good, this is great, this is working well. But this kind of, ooh, I have something that I haven't heard before.
I think that came from like the fact that you had to design that literally from the ground up. It wasn't like, and it was your baby, so it was your thing from literally the ground up. Did you reckon that's what gave you that bit more of a wow factor that time as opposed to others?
I talked about joining speaker companies that are already doing things a certain way, but I'm maybe brought in deliberately to change that. But I've always been lucky enough that I don't have other people telling me what sound they need me to design. It's been down to me. And, yes, I collaborate with other engineers to some degree in whichever companies, but it's still my responsibility of what I choose to do. And so, yes, I'm always responsible for that, and trying to come up with ideas that get me excited and able to do something reasonably new. But it's the best times are when it's clearly something different and not just a progression of what I've been doing. So that's where I get the most enjoyment.
Brilliant.
We have a few questions in the chat, Andrew, and if we can maybe hit them rapid fire, I think that would be great. We do have a question early on about, would you couple or decouple subwoofers?
Actually, the best thing to do is, so if you're going to try and decouple, if you think of a speaker cabinet or a subwoofer cabinet coupled, we're talking about spiking it to the floor.
Yeah.
All that's going to do is maximally excite the floor and get the whole floor bouncing. Now that's fun. When the bass note rolls out and you feel it coming through your feet and into you, that's fun. I'm not going to say, is it hi-fi? Is it not? It's fun.
It's fun.
So, but is it accurate? Right. So if we're talking about, and what is accuracy? How would we even assess accuracy? That's a whole different discussion.
It is. It's another subjective term, isn't it? In a lot of ways, yeah.
Yes. So if we think decoupling as isolating it, you've got two forms of excitation to a surface. One is acoustic and one is mechanically induced. Mechanical is like the reaction force in a gun, fire the bullet goes one way. The force is generated between the bullet and the rifle, not on the bullet. So the same force pushes the bullet forward as pushes you back. But because your mass is higher, your velocity is lower in direct proportion. So same thing happens with any drive unit. So with a subwoofer, you've got a lot of force there, particularly in these subwoofers that are big drivers in small cabinets and then heavily equalized. Huge amount of force. So you've got a lot of capability of exciting the surfaces on. So you've got the direct radiated sound is going to vibrate everything. Because even if you pick the subwoofer up and you are the absorber, the decoupler, the window's still going to rattle, the crockery in the cabinet's still going to rattle.
It's like a big sound pressure bazooka that you keep moving around and everything.
Right.
Yeah. Well, my subwoofer weighs 114 kilos, by the way. It's a Watchdog subwoofer from Wilson, and you can't pick that up. I wish I could because it'd be nice, but that takes an operation.
The reaction force, the physical force rather than the acoustic force, is way stronger than the acoustic force.
Yep.
So to isolate it only work, a mass spring system.
Yep.
By having a resonant frequency low enough such there's enough attenuation at the frequencies of interest. And with a subwoofer going down to 20 hertz and the isolation only increasing at 6 dB per octave, you need a isolation frequency of at least 1 hertz.
Yeah. Yep.
Your subwoofer, if you just push it, it's going to go, that's 1 hertz, right? So it's very difficult to adequately isolate a subwoofer. The real secret with a subwoofer is opposing drivers.
Yeah.
And put a rod between the two drivers, because that way they totally cancel that reaction force, and there's nothing fed to the outside. And that's not a new idea. We did it KEF 1042. It was already being done before that.
Yes.
And it fixes it, and it quietens the cabinet vibration by up to 20 or 30 dB.
Wow.
So it's a very powerful technique and very good for subwoofers, unless you are the belief that subwoofers must face you in order to sound good.
Yeah.
But at least one of the drivers is facing you, so you've got that going for you. But it will completely fix all of that. So I'd say if you're worried about exciting the floor, you either cut a hole in the floor and put concrete down to the rock underneath the ground, which my professor at the university, when I was doing my postgrad research on crossover network design, that's what he did. He owned his house. He cut the floorboards out, sunk this concrete down there. I had to be very sure that was the only position the speakers were only ever going to be used in. And then he just put the cut out floor, put it back on top of the concrete panel, and that's where the speakers go.
Wow.
Otherwise, if you're concerned that that might be an issue, go to dual driver subwoofers.
Cancel out type technology.
Yeah. We have so thank you for that, Andrew. We have another
great answer too, Andrew. That's awesome.
Fantastic answer. Yeah. Andrew, I think you touched on this a little bit, but it was in a different context. I just want to make sure that we covered this one about when you're designing a speaker to try to sound better. Do you have a particular style of music that you're trying to dial them in, or do you prefer things like jazz or classical?
I've got quite a variety, and that gets back to the requirements to reproduce different types of music. I've got to know what they're going to be able to do. And while my personal listening preference isn't rap or hip hop styles of music, or even heavy metal or whatever, doesn't mean I don't listen to those. It doesn't also mean that we kind of push music into categories and go, we don't listen to that kind of music.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean to say those musicians aren't doing music sort of in that style that you would still like. Yeah. And that's one of the advantages of going around shows or letting people say, could you play this music? Something that you've never been exposed to before. And you go, I think I actually like that. And who is it? I've never heard of them. I don't even know some of the styles of music. I don't know how they're categorized. Grunge, all these kind of things I couldn't tell you, but sometimes they sound really good, and I then incorporate them in my demos because there's an event I did in Denmark last year, can't remember, and I was told that at this event it's a manufacturing a big retailer throughout Scandinavia, and they do their own mini CES, and they bring in representatives from all the brands that they sell, and you get to present to all the salespeople. And there's a few hundred salespeople there.
Wow.
And I'm told the description was on the Friday night, you'll have a few hundred drunken Vikings coming round because it's free form on a Friday night, and they come round and listen to whoever's system they want. And there's buckets of beer put everywhere, and they're all coming in, drinking their beer and requesting not just heavy metal, death metal, some of it. And not a category I never knew existed until they said, can you play this? And of course, with having Cobras and streaming, of course you can find it. You can't make that excuse. Sorry, I don't have any of that kind of music.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they put it on and they're going, oh, turn it up, turn it up. And so now I've got some of that music. And you know what? Some of that death metal, heavy metal stuff, the density of mid-range tones.
That throat singing, when they sing.
And the throat sing, yeah. You take, if you're trying to check for intermodulation in your speakers, you could say a big horn section that's got all that density, or even organ. But certainly not that many people listen to full-blown organ music. But horn sections, you got them in all styles of music. That's a good test. But so is the dense guitar stuff in heavy metal and death metal.
Absolutely.
And if it can play that cleanly, it can play anything cleanly.
Absolutely.
So it's a good test. So these days, I can't say I'm now a convert to listening to death metal every day. But some of it, you go, no, this is fun. And
I must admit, the more I'm listening to music over my life, the more eclectic I'm becoming. As I get, I'm just listening to more things. Like when I was younger, listening to classical pieces of music was like, oh, kill me now. Like my dad was right into it. And then, and that sort of death metal, really thrashy sort of stuff, I just didn't have any time for it. I wasn't engaged in it. But some of that, I heard this guy singing a version of Brothers in Arms, like with using his, like doing it as a throat sort of a...
Oh, the throat things that can do multiple tones at once and stuff.
Yeah, and I went, now that is something I like. And then some of that other really scando sort of death metal sort of stuff, I'm listening to it now because it is as you said, it is a fantastic test of, what a speaker can perform like when it's got a saturation of frequencies, and is it holding itself together? Is it actually projecting everything in the correct way for us to be able to hear it correctly?
Yeah.
Now,
have you got to bagpipe music yet?
No, I haven't quite.
My dad loved bagpipes, and he would play bagpipe music to wake mum up on a Sunday morning. She was never too happy.
Well, the Queen, that God bless her, the Queen used to have the fellow doing the bagpipes to wake her up every morning.
I used to do folk dancing, Morris dancing, and I was at a folk festival at one of the London colleges. I was in the bathroom, and bathrooms are very echoey and fully tiled. Yeah. And this piper came in to practice.
Holy
that was ear splitting. I got out of there.
I could just see you doing a bit of a Michael Flatley and that sort of stuff, mate. I really could.
We need to turn him on to Antiphone Blues, that organ and saxophone album.
Yes. I have.
Yeah,
brilliant. Andrew, we have another question.
We might have one more, and then I'm going to finish off, Andrew, with my last question for you, and it'll be a doozy.
Well, we have this one that came in from the audience about asking, did you voice your SourcePoint speakers using the MoFi turntable and phono stages? That's a good question.
Well, I have to say yes, don't I?
I think you have to.
This is being recorded.
It is being recorded. He's obligated, guys. He's got a contract.
You can tell us in the green room whether that was a lie or not later on.
So, obviously I grew up with turntables. My first friend when I started doing physics at university, this guy called Arthur Kubasarian, and lost touch after university, but he decided to go to university to do physics because he was interested in hi-fi. So did I. And his system was Quad 33-303 ESL 57s, Hadcock Uni-Pivot pickup arm with a Deca London cartridge. Magnificent. First real hi-fi I heard.
Yeah.
We lost touch. Ended up at the hi-fi show, and there's this new turntable manufacturer and called Pink Triangle. Pink Triangle, who is that? I walked up. Arthur. He'd started his own hi-fi company, and now it's Funk Firm. So I've always been around turntables. My brother designed the electronics for his turntables, you know, the motor speed control circuitry, because my brother's an electronics designer, and designed a preamplifier for them and various things. So, but I transitioned, once I started transitioning to digital, I kind of stayed there, and I still have my turntables. I've got a Lin, I've got the MoFi turntables. So it's like we're saying with different styles of music, different sources of what provide the music is critical as well.
Correct.
So I find myself in at a show using digital off of the hard drive or streaming these days, just because it's me generally alone doing the talking, because I never stop, and the music. I can't be turning my back, pulling out a record, queuing it up, cleaning it, putting it on. I need to be able to queue up my music straight away.
People's attention spans are very small these days.
Yeah,
right. And if I've got someone with me, especially one of the MoFi guys, you go, okay, their job is to have something queued up, ready, and I'll switch over and then go back. But if it's me by myself, it's digital.
Streaming.
For convenience, at home or at work, I mainly listen to digital, but I do also listen to vinyl. I've got my own vinyl collection, and I have to make sure that I know what my speakers are going to sound like with all types of sources. I've also got reel-to-reel tape.
There you go.
I helped the Tape Project launch when they first came out with their reel-to-reel tapes. So it's important to have a variety of different sources to understand what your speaker's doing. But do I voice specifically for a MoFi turntable and cartridge? No. I voice for a range of
things.
Which makes sense.
You have that does make a lot of sense. Now I guess look, first of all, again, we'll thank you at the end, but it's just been a fantastic chat. This has like honestly, people I think really have had a chance to understand. And now I've got Charles Kiramis trying to ring me on the telephone at the moment. Pardon me for one sec. So he must have heard me talking about turntables and records.
Exactly.
God, Charles. But I think the thing that it's a quite a two-part question to finish off with. But Andrew, tell us a little bit about what you do when you're not doing this. Yeah. So that our audience can understand a little bit about what makes Andrew tick. What does he do? What do you do when you're not thinking about speakers and designing speakers and stuff like that?
Yeah.
My wife would say nothing. She's accused me of.
I can see her in the background there. She's
in the background there.
Yeah.
You can kind of see her on the screen.
I can just see her there.
Yeah.
Waiting for her to do that.
There she is. Hi, Mrs. Jones.
They're saying hi. The whole world is saying hi to you.
Hi.
So, I've been accused of dreaming about speakers and talking about speakers in my sleep. So, and that doesn't really surprise me. But I talked about folk music. I used to do folk dancing and win competitions. I won Sidmouth competition twice for solo jig dancers, that kind of thing. So that was a big part of my life. And music adjacent, I could never play an instrument. My brain didn't seem to work for that, but I could be involved with musicians all the time, either through my work or through my dance hobby. Photography was also another big thing I've always loved doing. A lot of my time is taken up with all my dogs and cats. We both rescue dogs and cats, and we help out with a couple of rescue agencies.
I've done the same thing as well. Yeah.
So that takes up a lot of time and effort. You know,
these
a
are
lot of
my last two babies. That's Bronson up there, and that's the guy. He's the guy that used to, and Layla Bronson. Bronson's that guy I cry about when I hear that song, because I lost Bronson to a brain tumor, unfortunately, and I the very first track I played when I wanted to have a cry about losing him was I went in and put that track on, and it gave me a chance to purge some of that stuff out. But he used to sit on my lap and just howl. Oh, here we go.
That's one of them. This is Daisy. Hi, Daisy.
Daisy. Hi, Daisy. Gorgeous.
And Rosie, come here. She's going to pee on me, but that's Rosie.
Beautiful.
Look, where's Mochi? Mochi's the... here he goes.
Oh, they're not far away. They all want their time.
This is my Mochi.
Oh, that's Mochi. Oh, now here. Oh, look at Mochi. Oh, magic. Oh, awesome.
And then numerous cats. Lots of cats.
Lots of cats. I've had both, and that is awesome. So thank you, mate. Thank you very much for that. Now, is there anything you can tell us about what's coming up for you and MoFi?
Not much, other than I'm working on some ideas that we will be launching definitely next year. Okay. Some of them more lifestyle oriented, let's say, because we talked about where do people put speakers, how do they use them, and most people are restricted in what they can do with placements, and so trying to take that into account for one of the speakers we'll bring out next year. Brilliant. But also moving a bit more upmarket. So allowing me the time to think of, what are the limitations in drivers? How do they work? And this is spurred by all the work that the listener are doing, and Lazarus Bow and KEF, looking at magnet structures, looking at modulation, distortions, these kind of things that they're one of the areas that hasn't been addressed until very recently. Nearly every driver is this 12 millimeter, almost exactly 12 or 14 millimeter voice coil and a 6 or 5 millimeter top plate with a ferrite or neo magnet. That's not really changed. And so when I was doing the concentric driver, the original SourcePoint 10, I'd come up with a magnet structure that both the mid-range magnets and the tweeter magnets couple together to drive extra flux into each other's gaps, but also to so I can get the higher flux densities. Because when you put a small tweeter in the middle of the voice coil of the mid-range, you got very little space to work with for the magnet, so the flux density is low. So you get more modulation distortions from that. So this double magnet array helped to minimize some of those distortions. And so I've just been pushing further in that direction, because I see what Lars and KEF are doing and thinking, I've got to keep up. I want to do my versions, because I know those are some of the limitations we face. We always look at new cone materials, but the reality is most cone materials just clump together in a certain range of properties. If you look at their physical characteristics, they all group aluminum, titanium, magnesium. They're all within 10% of each other in terms of the velocity of sound, which is the principal characteristic that determines where the breakup mode is. Beryllium jumps to 2 and a bit times better. And then diamond is about 20% better than beryllium. But they're basically unobtainium. And every other material is still down at that other range. So, there are some advantages of them, but they're not transformative. But since nobody until recently was really paying attention to these magnetic distortions, that's where a lot of us are all thinking and seeing what we can do to improve things. And some of it is new techniques, the old techniques reapplied. Some of it is new thinking. We're all having a go at that. It's just that those magnet structures are extraordinarily complex to put together. Normally, you don't magnetize the magnet until you've assembled it into the motor. But all these other techniques require you to pre-magnetize very strong neomagnets. And then you're putting them together, pre-magnetized in steel structures that you've got to stop them going boom and
of course,
in the wrong way.
Be a pain.
Very difficult. And so it's not just the material cost that influences what that driver is going to cost to manufacture. It's the manufacturing processes that need careful jigging to put them together.
With these new technologies like this, then you really are forging new ground in relation to manufacturing techniques, and then there's obviously cost blowouts that happen there as well. Yeah, sure. Well, Louis, I mean, I reckon it's probably time we sent this man on his way, and although I could talk to him all night, I really could.
Yeah,
that's happened. I did one event.
I've still got 8 questions here. I'm telling you, Andrew, like we must do a part 2, I think.
We even have the request coming in from the audience about having you come on and just talk about stories. So yeah.
Fantastic. Well, if you'd like to come back at some point, Andrew, we would be ecstatic.
I did the New Jersey Audiophile Society, and that went on for 5 hours. I was there, right? And so we called in for pizza, and we keep on going. Gradually, people, I've got family to go to, and once we got it down to just 2 people left, okay, best call it a night.
No, this has been amazing. This has been really good, and it's not finished. I think we've got to have a part 2.
We can have a rematch. Yes.
Yeah, we love that, folks. Make sure that you follow Andrew. You can check out his latest and greatest speakers at mofielectronics.com, or you can also follow on Facebook and Instagram. Be sure to go ahead and follow Andrew to keep up on some of these new things that are going to be coming out soon. And also, thank you guys for watching. We've been simulcastically broadcasting this episode, so be sure to, if you're a Vinyl Latte fan, go find Shane. If you're an Aussie Audiophile fan, come find me. We're all one big community here, but more importantly, make sure you follow Mr. Andrew. Andrew, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today.
I've enjoyed it thoroughly. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. Picking your brains like this has been fantastic. My background's a bit of sound engineering and acousticians and working around how rooms integrate with speakers, and this has been really informative for me personally, and I hope that our audience has got something out of learning a little bit more about what makes you tick, and absolutely think we need to do a part 2 here, because there's just so much more we could open up and talk about for sure. So thank you, mate, very, very much for being here. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on, and we look forward to a part 2.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for our live audience as well. We will